Gurmaigat, look, in fairness, Mark's laid it out there in relation to the fact of Sinn Féin support in relation to all the recommendations of the Citizens' Assembly. Look, I don't really know how many times in the Dáil that I've spoken in relation to the fact that you do, like, about decriminalisation, about the fact of a health-led approach, and the fact that the war on drugs and this entire farce that we've all engaged with internationally hasn't worked in any way, shape or form. What I was talking about is my absolute frustration in relation to the issues that you deal with. And look, we all see the work that is done, whether that's a case of the drug courts and you're accepting that somebody has an underlying addiction that leads with that, well, anything that gives them a roadmap into something that removes them from the addiction, or even if it's a harm reduction scenario that helps everyone from a societal point of view, who would not be in support of that. And then beyond that, like I've always said, what we're dealing with here as well are the issues that are caused by poverty and multi-generational trauma. And if we are really serious, long before anybody falls into your track, is we do those family supports and we do those community interventions, right? I don't think we need to do just one thing, but this doesn't stop us going down the road of decriminalisation. So I'm not quite sure where that conspiracy line comes from. And obviously any point,
I would ask that they look back on their contributions over the last few weeks. Some members,
it was 2 weeks, because it was 2 weeks ago.
It's not a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy.
I would like to point out that I do believe that the issue of drug debt intimidation, it does have a huge impact in relation to communities. I do believe that drug dealing and criminality has a huge impact in relation to criminality. I do believe that people who should get, let me finish. I do believe that people who should get supports, like, give me 1 second.
Please, I'm just, please.
I do believe.
No, I know. Can you ask a question?
No,
that's all I'm asking.
Right, I do believe that, I do believe that people who should get supports don't, and do get, and I would imagine this happens, and you have to deal with this quite often, get used by drug gangs. And that we need to do what we can in relation to diverting from that, and if there's an underlying addiction, providing them with supports. But I imagine you've come across many people in your field who are vulnerable, who have addiction, and have been used and abused by drug gangs. So I imagine a piece of your work is about helping them to get off that roadmap. And that obviously also takes a tool and a weapon away from these people who absolutely prey on communities.
Sorry, they're not two separate groups of people.
Just please.
Sorry, but they're not two separate groups of people. People who use drugs have sold drugs, and people who have been groomed into drug dealing are then the ones that you're saying that are the good. Like, they're all the same
I'm going to
groups.
suspend the meeting.
So there are no such thing as the bad drug dealer. No, not in any way, shape or form.
Rory, do you have a question?
If you understood poverty, you would understand they're the same group.
I've asked the question.
Okay. Sorry. Somebody wants to answer that.
I'm not sure I understood the question, sorry.
Okay.
The question was in relation to those that obviously need supports and whatever else, but like they fall into your bailiwick as well, and that they are being used and abused by by nefarious characters. I accept that there's people.
Who's the nefarious characters?
Right. So we're saying there's no such thing as of course there are people who are in. There are people who are. Of course there's bogeymen. Of course there's people who are engaged.
And you think that they weren't individuals that came through the same hardships? You can't be separating them.
Well, I could name a couple of them, and I don't care what.